Okay, let's get started. Welcome to our Wednesday after school club program. My name is Kim. I am a community learning specialist with DoSpace. And we have been talking about for the last couple weeks anyway, about circuits. And so we are going to be continuing on that today we are going to be making some paper circuits. So I actually have, I'm going to switch my camera around so you can kind of see the example of the paper circuit that I have for us today, which is going to be a lot of fun. Turn this back. There we go. So this is my example of our paper circuit today that we are going to be making. You can kind of see that I have our little LED light that our circuit is being powered to. So yeah, that is what we are going to be doing today. And so if you are just joining us this week, switch back to me, then that's okay. You are more than welcome, like maybe after today's class, if you want to learn more about what we've been talking about the last couple weeks. Our videos should be on our website at dospace.org, and then also at our DoSpace YouTube channel, so you could always catch up with that. But basically, the last couple weeks, we've been talking about circuits, what a circuit is, and how different kinds of circuits. So basically, a circuit is a path in which electricity flows. So anything that we have to power electricity to, our lights, our computer, our phones, you know, our toys. A lot of times, our toys need electricity for them to work. Remote controls, things like that. Anything that needs a power source, batteries, an outlet, all have circuits in them. And so we've been just talking about really simple ones. Basically, things that include one battery, wires or a path, something that's conductive or something that allows electricity to flow through it. And then an output, something that we're trying to power. And so we've been powering some LED lights, some little noise makers, some motors, all sorts of different fun things. In terms of things that we've used for wires, we've used Play-Doh, we've used alligator clips, and today we are going to be using stuff that is called copper tape. So this is going to be our wire today, is our copper tape, which is really cool stuff. You can just buy this online. You might even be able to buy it at craft stores. I'm not exactly sure, but I know you can definitely buy it online if you Google or search for copper tape. You can definitely find some of this, and it comes a lot. So that means you can do a lot of fun circuit projects with one roll of tape today. So yeah, so like I said, here are some of the things that we're going to be using today, and basically the top three things are the copper tape, the LED light, and our coin cell battery. And I'm actually going to change my camera view back to our materials. Let's change that back to our materials. And so basically we have all the things that right here. So you can see this is my my example of our paper circuit, and we have our copper tape, which, like I said, is going to act as our wire or our path to allow our electricity to flow through. I have our coin cell battery. So this is going to be our battery today. And this might be, this type of battery might be new to you. It's called a coin cell battery because it looks like a coin, a little round coin. It's maybe the size in between like a nickel and a quarter. So a little bit bigger than a nickel, a little bit smaller than a quarter. And yeah, and so like we've talked about in the past, all batteries are polarized, which means they have a positive and a negative side, or positive or negative end. You might be more familiar with like the batteries that you put in maybe your toys or remote controls, the AA's or AAA's, or even 9 volts, the square ones. These are a little bit different. So a lot of times in those other cylindrical ones, that like the top end or the one end is positive and the bottom end is negative. This is kind of, you have to think of it as like the sides, like heads and tails. So we have one side, or our heads, I like to think of as our heads, that's going to be our positive side of our battery. And it's kind of hard to tell with the light and the glare. And there's a little bit of like adhesive junk on it, but there you should be able to see a little plus sign, just a little plus sign on the positive side of our battery. And then this negative side is like there's nothing really on it, and it actually has a little bit of texture on it. And so I like to think this is our tail. So our positives heads, our negatives tails. And that's going to be important because we are going to be powering today a little LED light. And our LED lights are also polarized. And so I have a, well, let's see if I have a extra piece of paper. And we know they're polarized and we can tell which one is positive and which one is negative by these little legs or the leads. So you can see this is our bulb right up here. And then they have these little metal legs or leads that come out of it. And you should be able to see how one leg or lead is a little bit shorter than the other. So this longer one is our positive lead, and our shorter one is our negative lead. And so that's going to be important because for our path, for our electricity flows from the positive side of our battery around to our whatever our output is, in this case our LED, and then back to our negative side. So it's going to be important that we connect our leads or our legs to the right sides of our battery. So that's going to be really important. And some other things we're going to need today is some tape and maybe a pair of scissors. And then if you feel like decorating, we have some markers as well. And so I have, and I've also have in our materials list a link to the template because I have a paper circuit template. And if this is just, I got this from our template from Instructables. So I'm actually going to share that. And so this is just paper circuits. Like if you go to Instructables.com, it is a really great resource for different projects of all sorts. And if you search for just paper circuits, the first option should be just called paper circuits, and it has a nice little tutorial. But you can also download. We're using the paper circuit series, and so you could just download that and print that off. So it's pretty easy to use. Yeah, so again, you can see that this is what we're making today. So I'm going to go back to our materials list. There we go. And yeah, and so you can, and I can even click that. And so this is what the template looks like. And I can even put that in the chat for folks. And so for people if they need to access that as well. So yeah, so that is what we are going to be making today. So let's get started. I'm actually going to close my screen sharing so you can see just my video. So you have a nice video for that. So I'm going to move some things away, move that out of the way, and move this out of the way, and these out of the way. And we are going to start with our we're going to start with laying down our copper tape. Now, our copper tape, this is pretty cool stuff because, like I said, it's just kind of like any other tape. We have one side that's not sticky and another side that is sticky, and it can be, sometimes this is the hardest part, getting this white non-sticky part. I like to just use my tip of my finger to kind of pull away from the copper side, and so you can kind of see that. So yeah, so we have one, this side is pretty sticky, the other side is not. And for this tape in particular, there's sometimes like you might find two different types of copper tape. The copper tape that we have here at DoSpace, only the side that is not sticky, it has the best connectivity, or it's going to create the best flow for our electrons to, and therefore make the best connection. And if we try and this is going to be important here in a little bit, I'll tell you why here in a little bit. But if we were to like stack this non-sticky or the sticky part onto a non-sticky part, it's not going to make a very good connection and our light might be flickery. But there are tapes out there that you can, the non-sticky side is just as conductive as the sticky side. And conductive means, allows that electricity to flow. Some things are more conductive than others. So this non-sticky side is going to be a lot more conductive than my non-sticky side. And so I'm going to show you how to lay down this first. And so you can kind of see in our template, we almost have like a little bit of a box, right? And we have some breaks in our like wirings. So we have a couple corners. This is where our LED light is going to go. And then we have a break right here. So basically everywhere you see the gray is where we're going to lay down our copper tape. And we're going to start with our negative. So right where these circles are, that's going to be where our battery goes. And basically where this like dotted line is, and you can actually go ahead and fold it if you want, but that fold, you can even kind of see a little bit if you can even like line up the circles a little bit, but this fold, where the battery is going to go here, and that fold is what's going to kind of make a switch and allow that connection to close, so to make a closed circuit. So we're going to start with this piece. We're going to start with this piece right here. And basically, we're going to be putting down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of copper tape. So we're going to start with this first one, and it's going to go from our negative side, where our negative side of our battery is going to be, to this corner. And what I like to do initially is to measure, and then you can tear. I'm going to give an example really quickly. I'm not going to go the whole length, because there's a really nice way to put this down, to lay it down on your piece of paper. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to separate the entire piece from our white, because you can kind of see how this got all twirly, and then it's a little bit hard to handle, and then it gets crinkly and you might tear it, and it's really hard to work with whenever you completely take the white part off, the white backing off of it. So you don't want to do that. There's an easy way of putting it down. Plus it gets, like I said, it kind of gets crinkly. You can kind of see how crinkly that got, and we want to try and keep this as smooth as possible. So I'm just gonna go up here, put that away, and this is what I'm going to do next. We are going to measure from one side to the next. So we can kind of see the length of that gray piece, that gray line. We're just going to measure it a little bit. And I like to just tear it. I think tearing it's a lot easier. You can use scissors. I have some scissors here. You are more than welcome to use scissors. I think tearing it's pretty easy. And then again, we're just going to kind of use the tip of our finger to kind of try and move the copper tape away. This, like I said, this sometimes can be like the trickiest part of it. There we go. So what you're going to want to do, instead of taking this entire piece of copper tape off its white backing, is you just want to go a little bit, just a little tab. And what you're going to do is you're going to lay down just that little bit initially, best as you can, and try and go as straight as you can, and get that first little bit laid down. And then you can see how I have this little white part that I've already, and what you're going to do is you're just going to pull this, and as you pull, you're going to use your index finger to kind of smooth it out. And so you want to kind of just follow that gray line, and if it goes a little bit wonky like mine got a little bit wonky, that's okay, not a big deal. We'll make it work. And so you can see how nice and smooth, there's not a lot of wrinkles, nice and smooth that worked out. So the next part, we're going to go from this corner to the end of where we're going to be putting our LED down. So what we're going to do next is, instead of measuring it, because if we measured it, then we'd be putting some of the sticky side on directly on the non-sticky side, right? And like I said before, if you put the non-sticky side on the sticky side of our copper tape, then your connection's not going to be as good. So this is what you're going to do. I like to kind of maybe measure it and then measure maybe like a 1/2 inch out or a little bit more and then tear it. Because what we're going to do is we're going to make a little tab. We're going to make a little non-sticky tab. So what that means is I'm going to, again, you're going to kind of try and get the end of our white, or we're going to get our copper tape off and I like to just kind of bend this down a little bit. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to, this side is our sticky side, right? You can kind of tell that that's sticky. This side is not. This is our sticky side. It came from where the white part was. We're actually going to fold it onto itself. We're going to fold it as best as you can, just onto itself. So the sticky meets the sticky, just like that. You can see how I fold it basically in half. And that's going to then make a little non-sticky tab. So either side, this side and now both sides, are not sticky, which then means that when I put it down, if I were to connect it and then touch it down here to our initial piece that we put down, we're going to have a much better connection. So then what you can do, so now we still have this little white end, and we're going to put that, you're going to place it down as much as you can, and then just like we did before, we're going to bring this down and we're going to press this as we go. Now we have a little bit more than we needed. You can see how there's a little bit more, then you can just tear that right off. Oop. And we don't want to actually cover that. We want to try and get to that end as much as possible because we want to make sure that we're leaving this area open for our LED. So now you're going to take a piece of tape and just tape that little tab down so it makes a nice, good connection. Good job. And now we're basically going to do that a couple more times. So we'll measure this one. Pretty easy. Separate the white backing from our copper tape. Get that little end. Place it down. And then smooth it out. And again, if it goes a little bit off, that's okay. And then, again, we're going to make that non-sticky tab one more time. So I'm not even going to tear it off this time. I'm just going to keep it on the roll. And again, going to just separate those two a little bit. And then we're going to fold this down. Just fold it right down onto itself, making that little non-sticky tab. And we just want to make sure that that's going to go directly over the end of that piece of tape that we just laid down. And then again, we can kind of, this is where it kind of sometimes gets tricky. I'm going to try and follow the path as much as you can. Sometimes it's a little bit trickier to get a straight line, but that's okay. Okay, now I've gotten it to the end of that corner. I'm going to tear it off. I'm going to put a piece of tape down onto this. You can see this was my little tab, my non-sticky tab. That's going to go over, so it makes a nice, good connection. And then we have one more piece that we need to do. So I'm going to just tear that off. And then we need to make one more non-sticky tab for this, from this corner, and then go down to, this is where our positive, you can see that plus sign, that's where our positive side of our battery is going to be. So again, just kind of using the tip of my finger to separate the copper tape from the backing. Separate that a little bit. Oops. If it's a little bit more than the last ones, that's okay too. Make that non-sticky tab, nice and non-sticky. Make sure it is overlapping. We want to make sure it's overlapping. And then this one is a little bit longer, but that's okay. And this one you can probably tear off a little bit just to make it a little bit easier. And then we're just going to lay down that tape. And if that goes over, that's okay. We'll just kind of maybe tear that off. And there you go. And now we just need to then tape down this end of our little tab. And then there you have it. You should have a completed wiring. Basically, you've just done the wiring to our circuit, and you can see how things are pretty smooth. I have a few little wrinkles here and there, but for the most part, it's pretty smooth. It's not too wrinkly, not too crinkly, and that's exactly how we want it to look. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put our LED. We're going to tape our LED on. So you can see how it says LED right here, and then you can see where it says our positive and negative side. So now we know exactly where which leg or lead needs to go where. So I have, again, our LED light, and it looks like this leg is our long leg or positive leg. This one is our short leg or negative leg. And this, you can just kind of have your little guy do the splits. And so we're having him do the splits. And we are just going to tape them right down. So I am going to tape down my negative, and if you need to, sometimes it's easier to kind of angle them down a little bit so that when you press it down, it's pressed down nice and good. So, and again, we want to make sure that there's a lot of, this is kind of angled, but you can see how I pretty much got as much of the leg onto our tape as I possibly could. And I'm going to do the same to our other legs. We just want to tape it down so as much of that leg is touching that copper tape as possible. And then the moment of truth is testing. Let's see if we did everything right. So what we're going to do, so this is made a little fold. So this is basically like a little switch, like a light switch, only we made our own little switch. So we know that we need to put our negative side of our battery down and we want to make sure that our copper tape is touching our negative side of the battery. Now all we have to do is fold it over, and you should be able to see our light has worked. You can see how it's turning off and on. So you have just then made a paper circuit. So which is really cool. So you can keep it, so like you see in the picture, you could take a binder clip or a paper clip and put it on there. Another thing you could do is just tape the battery down a little bit. Now, this can be tricky because you don't want to completely cover the battery with the tape, because if you do, you're going to create a barrier so that the copper tape isn't touching the battery. So something that you can do is just kind of maybe near like one edge of it, just kind of see how I've taped down like just one half of it, which gives it plenty of space for our LED light to still light up and make a nice good connection. And the cool thing is that you can actually put something, you can decorate, something above this, another piece of paper. Like for example,
You know, I have this little pop-up robot. And so if you had, you could make it so your robot goes above it, or you can like, you know, draw and create your own design and just like then cut out a little hole where the light is going to be. And sometimes even if your paper is thin enough, or depending on what the color of your light is and what the color of your paper is, you can even see it through the paper. So there's a lot of different things, a lot of fun things you can do with this. And so I like it to do it as a card. And there's a really fun, you know, you have Grandparents' Day coming up. So maybe this would be a really great example, like way to like send a really fun letter to your grandparents and ask, you know, shoot them like a little letter that has a fun light up thing. And what you could do is on the top says like press, you know, press here, and then they press it and you have your own little switch. So yeah, so that is our example of paper circuit. And the fun thing is that you can do so many different things with our paper circuits. You can't, not just, you know, making cards. I'm going to switch my video so you can see me again. But not just cards, but like you can work on parallel circuits. You can work on series circuits, and you can try doing all sorts of different things. You can you know, decorate your room. I mean, there's a lot of fun things that you could do with copper tape. You could like make a really cool like graphic design in your room or something like that, and then put LED lights, and then make it where you know, you just touch, you know, you can make a little switch so you can touch that. But yeah, so thank you so much for joining me in making a paper circuit. Again, if you got in late, we're going to be posting this on our website at dospace.org probably in a few days, and it'll also be on our YouTube channel, so you can always check us out there. And yeah, so join us next week. Next week, we are going to be continuing our exploration of paper circuits, and we are going to be doing sewn circuits. So we are going to be working on you know, testing your sewing skills and making a sewn circuit. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So join us next week for that. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.